Welcome. I'm so glad that you decided to join us, and thank you so much for your interest. If you're looking to understand your taxes, and you want to get the best possible outcome year after year, then you've come to the right place. You see, because tax time for a lot of folks is really a time of reflection. For some, it may be the first time that they get an overview of their financial situation. And the reason I share this is because every day taxpayers go to work. They put in 8, 10, even 12-hour days. Like most people, they look forward to getting their paychecks, where they can reap the fruits of their labor. Now, what happens is you start looking at your paycheck, and for many, you see that 10, 20, 30% or more has been deducted to cover federal taxes. Now, if you live in a state with a state tax, you look further and you see that money has been taken out to cover that as well. So at this point, you're either emotionally calloused or you're super frustrated. And like many taxpayers, you don't mind paying taxes. You just want to pay your fair share. And most importantly, you want to make sure that you have enough money left over so you can live your life, pay your bills, and put some money aside for a rainy day. My name is Gene Bordis, and I've been preparing taxes for well over 15 years. I've filed thousands of tax returns, and it always surprises me how very little taxpayers know about how taxes work. Because of this, I've made it my mission to help hardworking people across the United States understand the fundamentals of taxation so that they can pay less in taxes and keep more of their hard-earned money in their pockets. So, if you have too much tax coming out of your paychecks, if you pay anywhere from $200 to $800 in tax preparation fees, maybe you've been filing taxes for years and you still know very little about taxation or how taxes work, maybe you cross your fingers every year, hoping for a good outcome. If this is you, then stick around. In this video, I'm going to show you how to pay less in tax preparation fees, and I'm also going to show you how to use a bit of strategy to get the desired tax outcome that you want year after year. No more guessing, no more hoping, and no more surprises. By the end of this video, I want you to feel empowered and ready to take control of your finances. But I do want to take a moment and share who this video is not for, so you can slip out quietly if needed. This video is not for those of you with complex tax situations. I'm talking about a portfolio of investments, real estate income, tons of stock activity, and business activity. Just to clarify, a side hustle is okay, but if you have a business like a multi-member LLC with employees or several independent contractors, this is where I recommend a tax professional. A great one is worth every penny. Second, if you are more advanced, meaning you can navigate Form 1040 and you understand how to fill out Form W-4 for your employer withholdings, if you are capable of doing your own taxes but you just don't want to, and you're perfectly fine with paying someone else to prepare it for you, then this may not be for you as well. The focus here is that you feel confident in your ability to review your tax return for accuracy. If this is you, then you're more than welcome to stick around. But I do want to let you know that what I've created is really more tailored for the beginner, the individual that says it's about time that I understand taxes and how they relate to me. Now keep in mind, my target audience isn't looking for a master's in taxation. They're, again, just looking to understand taxes as it relates to them. So if this is you, let's get started. Did you know that if you search topic 254 on the IRS website, you will find a section on how to choose a tax return preparer? If you scroll down to the middle of the first paragraph, it reads, although the tax return preparer always signs the return, you're ultimately responsible for the accuracy of every item reported on your return. Every item reported on your return. Now, when you get your tax copy from your tax preparer, can you confidently say that you understand every item that is on your tax return? Or at least most of it? All right, so I want to share a quick story that I think may be relevant to our discussion. So a couple weeks ago, a good friend of mine calls me and says, hey, Gene, I spoke to my mortgage broker. He's helping me buy a house, and he told me I should reach out to a tax professional because he believes that too much taxes are being taken out of my paychecks. So I said, okay, no problem. I said, well, how much are you making? He said, I'm making about $80,000 a year. Cool. I said, well, how much are they taking out in taxes? He said, well, last year I paid about $20,000 in taxes. And I said, okay, well, that does seem a bit high knowing your financial situation. You're married, you have a few kids. I said, But then he interrupts me and says, Gene, they're taking almost $1,000 out of my paycheck. It's way too much. And I just stop him and I say, hey, hold on. Who is this they that you're talking about? Who is the they that keeps taking money out of your paychecks? And he says, the government, which brings me to lesson number 1. The government or your employer, they don't decide how much is taken out of your paychecks. You do. So I tell my friend, you know that the government nor your employer, they don't decide how much taxes get taken out of your paychecks, right? And he goes, no, I didn't know that. I said, exactly. I said, you decide how much taxes get taken out of your paychecks. I said, you can have 0 taxes taken out, or you can have your whole entire check taken out and sent towards taxes. But at the end of the day, you decide. I said, you know that form that you fill out when you start a new job, the W-4? He's like, is that the one where you put all the allowances and stuff? I'm like, yep, that's the one. I said, that form, the whole purpose of that form is for you to fill out so you can let the IRS know how much taxes or how little taxes you want them to take out of your paychecks. That's the whole purpose of this form. And then I told him, I said, it's crazy because a lot of people start a new job and I see them ask friends, family members, or even the new employer where they're going to work how they should fill out this form. And those folks sometimes know very little about that person's tax situation. And every situation is different. So therefore, you can't just ask a random person how to fill out that form. So for instance, let's say you started out the year and you are single, 1 job, no kids. Well, you're going to fill out the form based on that circumstance. But let's say you're another individual and you're married, you've got 2 incomes, and you have multiple kids. Where you have to fill out the W-4 based on that circumstance. But think about this. What if you start the year out and you're single with no kids, and then at the end of the year, you're now married, you have a kid that was born in December, and you've had multiple jobs, not just the one, and you started the year with 1 job. Now you've got two jobs. That form is going to need to be updated throughout the year so that you can allocate the right amount of taxes so you're not left with a big tax debt at the end of the year. The goal here is no surprises. You'd be surprised to know how many people have these things happen throughout the year and never take the time or never think about updating their W-4. See, the IRS has an online calculator to help you navigate this and figure out the right amount of taxes to be withheld for your desired outcome. And it only takes minutes. This way you can adjust it so you have enough money in your paychecks to pay your bills, and you're not left with a huge tax bill at the end of the year. So my friend and I continue talking about the W-4 for a couple of minutes, but then he casually mentions that he filed 2 tax returns last year in 2023. So I ask him, I'm like, wait, based on what I know about your family situation, why would you file married filing separately? You may be missing out on some credits. How are you filing your taxes? He goes, oh, well, I've been using a tax preparer and I've been using them for a few years. And I said, yeah, but why would you do married filing separately? He says, well, no, I didn't do married filing separately. I did single and single. So then my spidey senses started just going off, which brings me to lesson number 2. Trust but verify. When you sign your tax return, you're responsible. Having the understanding of the fundamentals is huge. Not only will it help you strategize throughout the year so that you can have the best tax outcome, but it will also give you the ability to audit your own tax return at the end of the year to make sure that everything is accurate. Now, it is my belief that if you're going to play the game, you need to understand the rules. And I believe that every taxpayer should understand what they can or can't do, but also understand what's legal and what's not legal. Now, I do want to say this. I did talk to my friend, and he did give me the okay to share his story, just as long as I did not mention his name. So at this point, I have some thoughts as to why the tax preparer probably structured the tax return this way, where he filed 2 tax return, single. Come to find out, the kids were placed on her tax return. So then I asked him, I said, okay, so you had $80,000 of income. Was that all you, or was that your wife as well? He's like, no, that was all me. I'm like, well, how much money did your wife make? He's like, well, she didn't make any money. She stayed at home with the kids, which brings me to lesson number 3. In order to file an income tax return, you usually need income. So I asked my friend, how did she file a tax return with no income? He stays a little quiet. And then I'm thinking to myself, have you ever been in a situation that's pretty bad, but then it progressively gets worse? And then you get to a certain point where you say to yourself, like, it can't possibly get any worse. And then it does. Okay, well, stay tuned. So here's kind of where I'm at now. I don't want to upset my friend, right, with the conversation. And I don't want to speak in such a way that he feels insulted by what I'm saying, right? So I just asked him, I said, hey, do you have a copy of your tax return? Are you home? He goes, yeah. Do you have a copy of your tax return? He says, yes. I said, can you grab it for me, please? I said, if your wife did not have any income, chances are the whatever was put on the tax return wasn't put on the W-2 line or the wages line. So I'm thinking it was probably put under small business or other business income. And come to find out, it was. And it was about $12,700 that was put there, which was just under the standard deduction amount. If you understand taxes, you kind of know where I'm going with this. If not, then stay tuned. Another reason why it may make sense, it's really good for you to understand the fundamentals. But essentially, it was $12,700 so that no taxes would be paid, no tax liability would be due. But because the kids were placed on that tax return, then she qualified for a ton of credits, earned income credit, child tax credit, to the tune of $5,000. Although there are some situations where filing a tax return with no income may make sense, this is definitely not one of them. Now, there are so many red flags here, and I'm a little concerned that if I continue probing, I may uncover more. And at this point, I'm also not 100% sure that my friend wants my help, right? He called me about too much taxes being taken out of his paycheck. And now I'm uncovering that the wrong filing statuses were used, that income was added to his wife's tax return that wasn't supposed to be there so that he can qualify for credits and get money he shouldn't have received. So I'm ready to tell him what I would do to correct the situation, but I'm trying to be a little careful with my approach. So you know what? I decided, let me just tell him, hey, here's what I would do if I was in your situation. I would amend my return, put married filing jointly, use the $80,000 worth of income, put the kids and the dependents there on the tax return. And what may happen, and most likely will happen, is the money that you receive that you shouldn't have received, you'll have to pay that back. But on the flip side, you're telling me that way too much taxes was taken out of your paycheck, so that $20,000 that was withheld, you may have enough there to offset the amount that you received that you weren't supposed to receive. So you may net out okay. And I'll be glad to help you with that. So, question for you. What would you do if you were in my friend's situation? I found out that my friend paid $700 to have his tax return prepared, and prepared incorrectly. And that's for one W-2 and a couple dependents. So here's lesson number 4 in my final lesson. Be careful not to use the services of a tax professional too soon. Don't overpay for data entry. In my 15 years of doing taxes, I've worked with individuals at all different levels on their tax journey. I've worked with some taxpayers that have very, very complex tax returns, which required a lot of strategy. And I've also worked with some where really I felt like I was being paid to do data entry. Why? Because they lacked the fundamental knowledge or the confidence to be able to do their own taxes. Keep in mind, tax software these days will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But with that in mind, there's a difference between being able to accurately prepare your tax return and being able to put strategy throughout the year to be able to shape your desired tax outcome. Did you know that every taxpayer will pay an average of $500,000 in taxes over their lifetime? Now that's a lot of money. And I've made it my mission to help educate taxpayers across the country to teach them the fundamentals and a bit of strategy so they can keep more of that hard-earned money in their pockets. The truth of the matter is your tax return is only 2 pages. Yep, I'm going to repeat that. Your tax return is primarily 2 pages. Now, when you get your tax copy from your tax return preparer, it may be several pages, maybe 5, 10, or 15 pages. But keep in mind, those are worksheets and schedules that are used for calculations that then flow to your IRS Form 1040, which is 2 pages. It is my belief that if you can understand the IRS Form 1040, then you can understand and prepare your own tax return. Now, if you take that understanding and you add a bit of strategy, then you can make adjustments throughout the year so that you can get the desired outcome that you want year after year after year. I believe that you can do it, and I can help. Now, let me show you how. The IRS Form 1040, like I mentioned, is 2 pages. And for those of you with no tax knowledge, this may still seem overwhelming, but please bear with me. Here's how I want you to look at this form. Let's say the form is broken up into 7 sections. Section 1, this is the simplest section of all, taxpayer information. Here you're going to list information about yourself, your dependents, and you're going to select your filing status. Section 2 here is going to be income. You're going to enter all income that you've had for the year, W-2s, 1099s, and the likes. Section 3, here you're just going to subtract all allowable adjustments, and you're going to be left with what's called your AGI, which is your adjusted gross income. Simply your gross income with the adjustments equals your adjusted gross income. Section 4, you're going to deduct any credits and deductions that you're eligible for. Here is where you will have your standard deduction. And for those of you that are not familiar, standard deduction is a deduction that is standard for every single taxpayer based on the filing status that you choose. For single, for tax year 2023, the standard deduction is $13,850. For married filing jointly, you're looking at $27,700. Section 5, taxes. This section here is where you're going to take your taxable income and you're going to multiply it by your tax rate so you can know what your total tax is going to be. Section 6. Now that you have your total tax, that is what you owe the IRS for taxes, but you can now claim credits to offset the tax liability dollar for dollar. Section 7, payments, refunds, and balance due. Here is where you're going to see the money that was withheld from your paychecks. It's going to show up here. Any estimated tax payments that you made, especially if you're self-employed, is going to show up here. And it's going to ultimately end with you either owing a balance or getting a refund. All right, so that's it. That was the IRS Form 1040 in a nutshell. I went through it rather quickly, but this is what I mean by understanding the fundamentals. You go through the form, you understand the sections, how they all work together, and how it leads to either a balance due or a refund amount coming back to you. Now that you see the value in having this knowledge and understanding the fundamentals, what if we can add a bit of strategy and create the balance due or the refund amount that you desire? Let's look at a quick example. Imagine you made $30,000 for the year and you had no additional income. Now let's say that you're not married and you have one dependent that is a qualifying child. You can file single, but you may also be eligible for head of household. I share this because the standard deduction, like I mentioned earlier, is a deduction that is available to all taxpayers based on your filing status. Now, in this case, if you choose single, you will get $13,850 for tax year 2023. But let's say you choose head of household, you will get $20,800. Huge difference. So in this example, let's say you qualify for head of household status, which means you get to take the $20,800 and subtract that from your $30,000 of income. Now, you're left with $9,200 of income that would be subject to being taxed. So let's say, for simple math, you are in the 20% tax bracket. 20% of $9,200 would be $1,840. This is the amount of tax you would owe based on your income. Now, let's say you have 2 dependent children, and you know that the child tax credit is $2,000 per dependent child, and you qualify for every dollar. So that would make $4,000, and you can deduct that dollar for dollar from the $1,840. So essentially, the $4,000 credit would wipe out the $1,840 tax liability, and the difference, the $2,160, would be refundable to you as the additional child tax credit. So let's add one more layer. Let's say that $3,000 was withheld from your paychecks. You would add that to your $2,160, and your refund amount would be $5,160. So you see, it's really not that complicated. It's just math. But think about it this way. So let's say you're struggling throughout the year, right? And you really could use that extra money throughout the year, that $3,000 that was withheld from your paychecks. Well, it may make sense for you to adjust your W-4 so that you have more money throughout the year to live on, right? You would still, in this illustration, get a tax refund of $2,160, which was the credits for the dependents. So you'd have a smaller refund at the end of the year, that $2,160, but you'd have the $3,000 throughout the year so that you can pay your bills. Would that be helpful? I don't know, maybe. But the great news is you get to decide. You get to choose. You get to decide the strategy that you use and you implement so you can get the desired outcome that you want. No more guessing, no more hoping, no more surprises. All right, so if you found this helpful, I have some great news. I've put together a course with the beginner in mind to help you understand the fundamentals and to give you the confidence that you need to be able to prepare your own tax return. Now, think about it. The average taxpayer pays anywhere from $200 to $800 a year on tax preparation. With this course, you will be able to navigate your tax return, prepare it yourself, and apply a bit of strategy throughout the year so that you can get your desired outcome year after year. To make tax preparation even simpler for our students, I've included a walkthrough of me preparing a tax return using software that you would likely be using to prepare your own tax return. I am walking you through the entire process from start to finish. Taxation is complex, and I don't like math. Can I really do this? You are absolutely right. Taxation is complex, but your tax situation, your personal situation, it really doesn't have to be. So just think about it this way. Every year, the big box tax preparing stores, they hire thousands of people, put them through a 3 to 6 month training, and then those folks then go and prepare thousands of tax returns, right? I'm almost certain that in 3 to 6 months, they have not mastered taxation, but they're out there doing simple to complex tax returns because they're very well trained. Now, you only have to do your own tax return. And do I believe that you're capable of doing it? Yes. Do I believe that you need a master's of taxation? No. Do I believe that you need to love math? Definitely not. With the use of the right software, it will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. I can learn this on YouTube, or the software can help me. YouTube is a great resource, and software these days can definitely help you navigate easily. My concern with YouTube is that you have to know what to search for and piece all of the information together. A video may focus on how to, but not on tax fundamentals or vice versa. This course gives you both in an easy to understand format. In short, this is the course you wish you had in school. The software is a great tool. My concern here is that oftentimes it teaches you how to use the program, and if you need assistance, you may have to pay extra for it. Additionally, the level of teaching that the software provides is based on challenges you encounter with individual questions as you work your way through the program and as you work your way through your return. Some may provide a knowledge base, which resembles an encyclopedia and can be overwhelming, but I would not look at this as one or the other. Our course and the software, they complement each other. Now, don't get me wrong, this course is not a shortcut to tax mastery. This course has been formulated and condensed with one goal in mind: to help you understand the fundamentals and give you the confidence you need to prepare your taxes year after year. I would love for you to join us and be a part of our movement as we educate taxpayers across the country and help them keep more of their hard-earned dollars in their pockets. I believe that we need to be more proactive and less reactive when it comes to our finances. I want to encourage you not to procrastinate. If the average taxpayer is going to pay $500,000 in taxes over their lifetime, that means that some are going to pay much more and others are going to pay much less to get to that average. Let me help you be one of those individuals that pays much less. Hey, I look forward to interacting with you throughout the course, and I want to thank you for listening. Sign up today.